Push the record button, so we are now recording, and the meeting is called to order at 10:05 a.m. on Friday, May 12th, 2017. Minutes will be taken by Darlene, our secretary, if you wouldn't mind. And they're also being recorded, so that is also an additional record. And I do want to talk about, I didn't have this on the agenda, so I need to add it, how the board feels about the recordings of these kind of meetings. Do we want to make them, when I put them on YouTube, do we want to make them publicly accessible, or should it be restricted only to people who have the link, which could be on our website, so it would be a roundabout way, but do we want to make them searchable on YouTube, I guess is the question. So we can talk about that later on in the agenda. Last time we had 2 note takers for the task list, and I like that method. If we can do that again, Brian and
sure.
Aletha,
yep.
You want to do that again?
Take notes.
Sure. Thank you. For attendance, I will read the names of those that are present and confirm that we have a quorum. We have myself, Perry Stokes, here in Baker, Aletha as well. Brian, as Executive Director, is also in the room. And there's Aletha, and there's the 2 of us. We have Darlene Johnson, who's listed as Joyce McCurdy on our login, and Buzzy Nielsen from Crook County, and Kathy Street by phone. Is there anybody that is somehow attending that I haven't called their name of? Don't think we do have anybody else. Okay. So we do have a quorum for conducting business. And for business, does anybody object to voting by acclamation, which means that instead of asking for everyone to voice vote by an aye, which can be problematic with this technology, I'll just ask if anybody objects, and if there is no objection, the measure will pass. Is that okay?
Fine with me.
Yes, I like that.
Okay. All right. The agenda was posted on the Leo Google Docs. I hope you've had a chance to see it or are looking at it now. It should be on your screen that you can view. I do want to add one item that I mentioned about discussing your preference on posting this recording.
You want that to be under other business?
Let's put it under other business.
Okay.
Oh, I've got it. Don't worry about it. Don't. Okay.
We had the noise that somebody just joined. Is that you, Darlene?
Yes, it is. I'm doing it on my phone.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have any additions or corrections to the agenda or the minutes? And the minutes I just did get sent out this morning. I apologize. I enhanced what Darlene had done by listening to the recording. So it became quite lengthy, I'm afraid. You may not have had a chance to read the 13 pages of minutes.
I think the only corrections that I had seen were Kathy's name and then the number of board members required for approval of bill payment. Were there other corrections that you made?
To what Darlene had?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I made a lot of changes. And there's actually one part down here in red that is just a duplicate from previous meeting that I'm just going to take out right now.
Okay.
It's hard to approve the minutes if we haven't read them.
Yeah, so we can just leave those in draft form, and you would read through those. We can have those approved at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. We'll move forward with the agenda that we have with the addition. We have open forum on our agenda, but that is something that we should also add. Is there anybody who would like to bring up any issue that's on a topic not already on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to board chair report, which is me. And I guess my report is a review of the task list of things that are still yet to do. Still need to create the pitch of the library to go for the membership to convey the value and let people know what they would pay if they were to go solo.
Right,
Yes.
right. And who's doing that?
Perry is doing that.
Who?
Perry.
Perry. All right.
It's the same thing as the policy paper, I believe. It's also on the task list from last time
Okay.
about the Library to Go and the Advantage program.
Okay.
Library to Go Advantage programs on the agenda later. So
Okay.
that is all for my board chair report.
Okay.
We'll move on to executive director report.
That's me.
Hey.
All right. Did you have a comment?
You know, back to the forum, I just wanted to make sure that we all thank Marcia for her many, many years of service to the Leo board and for shepherding through the Art Place America and all of that, because she has
That's a good
retired.
point.
Mhm.
Yes. I should note that. Thank you for bringing that up. We received a resignation notice from Marcia Richmond this morning.
Right.
Um,
And it's because she is stepping down from the directorship of the Umatilla County Cooperative Library District for health reasons. And she's been an incredible support and benefit and committed member of Leo for more years than I can remember. And so I don't know if you want to just, send her an email, thank her for her service, because since we're not together, we can't really do a card. We're all over the place. So it would be really nice if everybody could just send her an email today since she announced it and thank her for her service and wish her luck.
That is a great suggestion. I would second that encouragement.
Yep.
Oh, as he says, he just did.
Excellent.
Okay. Brian.
Okay. Activities. I've been doing lots of emailing and phone calling and re-emailing or re-phone calling in relation to finalizing some of the programs for Art Place, as well as with the big eclipse. Because of my eyeball, there are certain things that I would like to be getting to, but I haven't been, just based on my inability to use the computer as much as I did 3 weeks ago. So that's sort of where I'm at as far as like overall activities. The OLA conference was sort of very enlightening, and at the same time, I feel like, now what is it that we did there? So
Goes by in a blur.
Yeah, immediately afterwards, I ended up in Portland for eye surgery and laid on my face for a week straight as the retina is reattaching itself. So I think one of the things that I brought back from the conference was that there's a need for us as a consortium to sort of expand our sort of ability to execute as a collective that we may not be doing or aren't doing effectively, and so I need to figure out ways to work with our members to sort of add them to our basically add to the scope of the way in which we can execute things from our smallest libraries to our largest libraries, and that's something that we're not doing effectively.
Can you give an example of what's on your mind?
So when it comes to some of these bigger grants like Art Place, like one of the reasons that we would receive it is because we have the capacity to execute it, because we have 50 partners. Every library could be considered a partner, but when we have people who don't respond to emails or don't return phone calls, like that partnership doesn't really exist.
Okay.
And so there's bound to be a way to more effectively work with one another. And one of the things that I know to be true is that everybody has very limited time, and so their ability to respond in a timely fashion can be dictated by the number of staff hours that they have to help do what they do, or the limited number of hours that they have to do what their main job is, to run their library and their community, not necessarily to be actively involved in what Leo's doing in the southern part of our consortium versus the eastern part of the consortium. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's bound to be a way where we can more collectively work together without adding 10 hours to everybody's week or everybody's day related to what it is that we want to do. However, I also think if it seems to be the overall need or expectation of our members to not be actively involved, well then, what we do as Leo is to be a discount database service membership. And so, part of me stresses and worries about how can I better provide services to our members, but if it's not something that our members really have the same level of concern as I do, it's like I shouldn't stress over it. And
I
so,
would agree. So people are only going to get out what they put in, and if they're not taking advantage of the communication and the offers that we put out there, then that's not your responsibility to twist your arm.
And I think, the one thing that, as I said, I understand how busy people are already with what they do for their libraries. When I'm told, like, oh, I get so many emails every day, and so I can't just respond to everything. And I understand that. However, there is no reason that I'd contact anybody unless it had to do with programming or with membership. So, like, the only reason I'm ever going to contact anybody is because Leo has something to offer. You know, I'm never going to send pictures of kittens. I'm never going to, you know, send joke emails. Like, I have no interest.
Maybe that's the problem. Start doing that.
Yeah.
I know, but kittens are lame. Puppies are cool. So I just, so I think that, you know, all that being said, like those are the things that I think, you know, looking at what was done in some of the conferences that were, some of the workshops at the conference at OLA, it was like, what is it that your, you know, your members need from you at your library? And so it's, and what are you doing to provide that? So like, what is it? Like one of the workshops that Alita and I went to was how, it was like the Portland Community College redid their library based on the usage of those areas. And it's like, you know, in some respects, that would be beneficial to Leo. Like, what libraries are actively using and receiving Leo programming, and which ones are capable and which ones aren't. And then how do we work together to make that happen? And I think that based on, you know, it's a year now this month that I'll be executive director. And for the most part, the majority of my time has been spent working to provide programming for people that we had money for. And so, you know, now we're getting near the end of any of that funding. And so the only way to sort of help provide funding and services moving forward is if and when I find additional grant money or to provide connections for our members to get, you know, discounted programming like the Museum of Natural History and Cultural Heritage. Like they're coming independent. Leo isn't funding any of that, but it's like $200. And so I know for some member libraries, $200 is money they don't have, and then other member libraries is like $200, awesome. You know, you know, I'm capable of putting people in touch with libraries to say, you know, here's who you need to talk to if you want to schedule programming that we don't, as a consortium, have funding for, which is fine. I think a matter of the consortium members deciding, like, do they want me to do, you know, just do that? And if and when we find some grants, great. But if I'm going to be looking at larger grants like art plays, like I absolutely have to have the libraries be partners in the execution of that. Otherwise, our capacity to execute it is diminished. If it's just me, even if you're paying me 50% of the grant money, it's like, it's not enough. Like, there's not enough of me to make that happen. And so, like, I truly do need all the members that are going to receive anything from grant funding to be capable of doing, you know, their part to make it happen. So,
well, I think we're going to address this a little bit later in the agenda. We're talking about the MOU, and I think that may be one step forward in establishing expectations of our membership.
There was something else I would like to add since Brian brought up that workshop that we attended. It was kind of the changes they made, or the cooperative effect that they had, was based on kind of surveys and observing people and so on. And it's, I guess we're not getting feedback necessarily from members that aren't participating. I mean, we're not sure why, maybe. And so I was thinking from the other side that maybe one of us could take on the task of, not Brian, but just visiting one-on-one with these libraries and say, well, what could you use?
Right.
And and from that answer, it reminds me of a survey we did many years ago about continuing education. And maybe the answer is they could really use a class on protecting themselves from harm in the library, from safety issues, maybe. And then maybe we could write a grant for a workshop to get people to it, for example. And that could be a Leo function also, which goes back to the old libraries of the Eastern Oregon Library Association concept. It's a way of blending them, but to the benefit of the libraries themselves. And at some point over a period of time, I'd be willing to visit with the libraries to get some of these answers if everybody thinks it's a cool idea. It would take time for me
and
to
I
do
think
it,
that's key. Like I find that every time I have a connection where I either talk with somebody in person or I talk to them over the phone, it helps me to better understand what it is that they're doing at their library or in their community. And I think the board needs to decide like what sort of interaction is the consortium providing with the members. So like I like the idea, if it's, let's say, in library safety is only an issue for a small number of members, then it's the sort of thing where it's like that's not really a worthwhile use of Leo time or resources, because it could be something that they individually take on as their responsibility.
But they can't individually take it on. That's the problem. When I went around interviewing for continuing education things, the main problem was they had no money for anything.
Right, and so I think one of the things that I've been doing and talking with some of the libraries is like they're not nonprofits, but Leo is, so we can be a financial agent on their behalf to receive funding and hold it for them for when they need it. So like Stanfield, for example, used to receive monthly funds from the railroad and from Walmart because they have an incentive program where if you have volunteers within your organization, they will give you money. Well, they're not a nonprofit and they don't have a friends group that is a nonprofit, so Leo can be their nonprofit that that money comes in for. So all of the libraries should be able to qualify for Cultural Coalition funding. What they're using it for varies from place to place, but I think that if what we're existing for is to help empower libraries in rural Oregon to be able to do more for their community, it's like where can they be doing it themselves and where can we be doing it for the region? Like what are we doing for the whole of Eastern Oregon versus just Baker County or just Wallowa County or just Union County? And
I'm not going to belabor it, but I'm going to respond to what you said, because sometimes helping them one by one with their particular issues is something that only Leo could give them because they're so small.
Sure.
So I wouldn't think of it as one big basket, and if you can't use it, you can't use it. That's why I thought if there were specific things, and even if there were 4 libraries that needed one specific thing, and there were a small grant that got them there, Leo would be very important to them.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think, too, when you put it that way, it's like that's a more achievable goal. Like, so we're looking to, write the grant then specifically for these regions separate from, like, the entire consortium.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, and that's, so moving forward, like, that would be the way I can talk about what we did with the Big Eclipse and Wild Horse. So, like, we wanted to be able to have Nancy Kofelt go to as many places within the consortium as possible, and because of the way the Wild Horse Foundation specifically funds projects within the Confederated Tribes region, it's 4 counties that they can provide funding to, and they provided us the funding to purchase all of the books and viewers for those regions, but no money towards the presentations themselves. So for that, we were using the Towns of Maine $10,000 for her to do presentations, but not to provide so the Wild Horse money allowed us to provide books and viewers for that area. So it's Union County, Wallowa County, Morrow County, and
Umatilla.
Yeah, so it's those 4 counties, and she has, at this point, because of what she did in Athena, I think over 200 people were at that presentation, and so all of the books and viewers that the Wild Horse money paid for have now 100% been given away, yet she still has another month and a half of touring to do. And so there's a few more coming up that are still within that region that she's providing the books and other materials out of pocket on. So she's totally excited about the fact that she had this many people. So like
she didn't pace her giveaway, just gave them all away.
Well, the thing is like the way in which she's worked on doing this was to have books to give away to everybody that comes at every location. And I think she has 20,000 books left. So this is the way she looks at it. As of August 22nd, those books don't mean anything.
True.
Because as of August 21st, once the eclipse happens, it's over and done with. So she's been, very excited to, do these presentations. At a certain point, with the back and forth that I had been doing with members, I said, Nancy, I need to take it over from here. And she was like, okay, great. And then she wrote an email and said, oh my God, I understand why you had to limit your time, because it takes forever. And so it's, I think we started working on this back in January, and some dates have just been set within the last week. So that, I am really excited that we've had the ability to get her to as many places as we have, and that she's had the response that she's had. So it's worked out really well to have the additional funding that Wild Horse gave us, and have it go to as many people as we had, and to really be able to say, oh, this is because of Leo and because of the libraries that people are getting this knowledge, and we're making it safer for everybody to view the eclipse when it happens.
Right.
I'll move on now to Art Place. All of the everything with the last remaining funds has basically been scheduled as of yesterday, I think. So Teresa Drilling has secured all of her spots, and she is super excited to come back, and I'm really excited that we're getting to have her go to other places that she didn't get to on her original tour, and I'm glad that we used the money that we did so that we can share the resources that are here in Baker with both Milton Free Water and Oregon Trail Library District. And I just can't wait to see her when she comes to town next month. And the remaining funds basically are going to get spent next week, having me in Seattle at the Art Place Conference with Shelley Toon Lindbergh. I'm really excited about seeing what they have to share, similar to the OLA conference, and what we can do for Leo with what we learned there.
Can I ask a quick question, Brian?
Sure.
Going back to the first part when you and Elisa were talking about the activities for upcoming ideas, I looked on the website to see if I could find the mission and see what we say about other activities besides more art place or stuff like that. Is the mission printed somewhere?
The mission, it's, I think you have to go through the link to the Google Drive for a mission statement. Let's see.
Something that should be featured pretty prominently.
Yeah.
Should be.
Maybe it should include it right here on this opening splash page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's not a mission statement. The Legal Board of Directors seeks to enhance civic engagement, social capital, and personal development of individuals, and benefit society of a well-informed citizenry.
Good heavens.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, Kathy.
I would give it the one mission statement.
So I guess the other question would be, is the LEO activities to serve rural libraries include partnerships, community programs, infrastructure, professional development, and advocacy.
There you go.
So, and then it, tells what those like workshops for every libraries and staff and volunteers, recognition of library as the heart of a rural community, lifelong learning for all ages for community programs, help with facility, technology, and collection needs. The partnership is for cost efficiencies and strength in collaboration. So are you looking for a different mission statement than that?
No,
I mean,
you
yeah.
finally hit it, but it's a very long
Oh,
one.
that's it. I just couldn't find it anywhere.
Really
Sure,
long.
that's on the home page. So it's on the very first page, and it's just underneath welcome to Libraries of Eastern Oregon.
But
Okay,
that was one of those things I was talking about.
Sure.
I think maybe it should more clearly indicate that a mission statement. Does it have a header?
The header is LEO activities to serve rural libraries include. And I could change that to Libraries of Eastern Oregon, mission.
Well, there is a part on our webpage that says LEO information and archive, and it says mission statement, but when you click on it, it says coming soon.
Okay.
Well, that would be a logical place to put it then.
Yes.
Well, I thought that this part about activities was maybe larger, more broad than what our mission statement might have only been one sentence or two.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Anyway, that was just my question about the activities part. I was trying to tie what we were thinking about activities into our mission.
Okay.
And going back to Nancy Caulfield, are you going to have an evaluation? It might be to our best interest to maybe do an evaluation right now as with the libraries that she's visited.
Sure.
An evaluation of her programs, you mean?
Yeah, we have a strong opinion that it's targeted more to middle-aged school kids than smaller kids.
Okay, and I think that when I sent out the information, it said that it was for ages 5 to 11.
I'd say more 8 to 12.
Okay.
5 to 8 was pretty not her target audience,
Okay.
in my opinion, and several of the people that attended.
Well, it is pretty difficult concept to grasp, I guess, for...
It is. It's a little way above their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sun's going to go away? What?
Yeah.
Well, just that part they sort of understood, but the science part, I just think she could maybe make a couple tweaks and it would be good for that age.
And I guess the question would be, like, how would you suggest she make the tweaks?
I mean, I can talk to you about that, Ryan, outside of the meeting, because I don't think it matches our agenda.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to waste
We
everybody's
do
time.
have quite a bit to go
Sure.
through, so
Yeah.
of time. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Later today about it.
Okay. So then, I guess the as far as the Art Place conference goes, like I've picked out my breakout sessions that I'll be going to, or that I think I'll be going to, and they, tend to be about community engagement and capacity building sort of stuff. So, and then as far as the way the remainder of the funds are being used, there's probably going to be a couple $100 left over based on the fact that we had as many libraries that are able to contribute some funds to traveling lanterns, and some people contributing some funding to Teresa coming. And I think we got more contribution from libraries for traveling lanterns than we did with Teresa, and so the $4,000 that we earmarked to have her go on tour will basically all be spent with her. I think we got her an extreme discounted rate last time, and so to see those funds be fully used would be great. So
Financial report. Yana sent some documents this morning, was it?
Yes. So our current balance is $72,303.48. And that includes what's in our checking, our savings, and our endowment CD, which comes to term at the end of this month.
I'm going to post a link to that financial folder. Anybody did not get that? There you go.
So the way that our net income looks is we've been doing nothing but spending money this year. So we had a total of $5,422 in donations since January, $1,750 from Wild Horse,
I'm not seeing the documents on that drive. Sorry about that, folks. Let me see what's going on.
so we have a total profit of $5,797, and our expenses from wages, from Ghana, from operating and programming are $45,086.12. But one of the things that I'm really good at is if you give me money to spend for you, I will spend it all on you.
That's good.
I work to never spend anything I don't have, but if we have money and it's meant for programs for you, I will spend it. Any other questions on that?
We do have a question about our CD. It's coming to maturity at the end of May,
Correct, on the 30th.
and we have the option to renew it with the same bank,
Correct.
Eastern Oregon, or move it to a CD held
At
at
Umpqua.
Umpqua, which we currently bank.
Both Jan and I discussed it, and it doesn't really matter wherever we think the better interest rate is fine. I mean, if the money is being held to increase the size of the endowment, it doesn't matter where it's located. You know, we're renewing it for whatever period the board wants it renewed for, and then it's just going to sit there. So it's not, you know, unless for some reason the board felt that it was money that needed to be accessible, then, you know, renewing it where it's at is fine. Like the difference that she said in the document she sent to us was that Umpqua based their percentage on $1,000, whereas Bank of Eastern Oregon bases it on $500. It's a 0.12% from Bank of Eastern Oregon and a 0.1% from Umpqua. The way in which the document reads, it shows it at the $500, so it's 35 cents for 12 months, 60 cents for 12 months at Umpqua, but we have $8,000 in it, so we'd definitely be making a little bit more at Bank of Eastern Oregon. You know, 0.02%
Leave,
but,
leave it there.
I think we might as well leave it.
Yeah, leave it.
Not a big deal. It's just sitting there. It's not
Yeah.
something we access regularly.
Yep.
Get reports on. Anybody have a different opinion? Guess the question is, oh, Kathy's asking about the money reserved, the leftover money in our place. She wonders if that could possibly be used for libraries that did not have an Art Place program.
I think that everything that we've spent the money on moving, like the programs that we've scheduled this summer with the Art Place money has been to libraries that didn't have any Art Place programming. So the only places that I think have really not received any funding whatsoever from Art Place is Wallowa County. In Joseph in particular, because I have never once spoken to anybody there. Either no phone call return, no email return.
I don't know if you
so,
got this word, Brian, but Wallowa County is closing.
There.
The Wake County Library.
The county library. So Enterprise has gotten programming. Wallowa has gotten programming. Joseph is the only one that hasn't in Wallowa County. And so as far as I know, we have spent money from Art Place in every single region within the consortium. Maybe not all 50 libraries, but I would say at least 35 libraries have had at least one program fully paid for because of Art Place. So
That's good news.
Okay, moving on. Financial report. Next is library board membership review and appointment. There's been some confusion due to some errors in past minutes about who's actually on the board. We think we've gotten that worked out. Find my sheet. So the board membership currently, myself, Kathy, Darlene, Aletha are all the officers. And then the at-large members are Buzzy, Mary Reeser from Gillum, Marcia, who's just resigned, Vicki Waters, who's now named Vicki Bond from Grant County, and Jeff.
Here.
Hi,
Hi.
Vicki.
Hi, Vicki. And Jeff Loveland from Wasco. So we need to consider who we're going to take Marcia's seat.
Who will also need to become a signer.
We have had Erin from Milton Freewater as a backup. She agreed to that at the last meeting we were together at, which was October, I think.
Well, that seems reasonable, doesn't it?
Erin from Milton
And
Freewater.
it's from that area.
Yep.
So I would think that would be really appropriate.
Mark Rose from Hermiston, I think, also was amenable to the idea.
Oh, I thought he was already on.
No. Currently, we have, according to the bylaws, it was, as he said, 7 to 9 seats until we change it to 11. If we replace Marcia's seat, that would keep us at 9. So the question is, do we want to, I guess I'm open for nominations.
Well, if we can go up to 11, then,
We can't until we change the bylaws.
I see.
Well, so I will say, I believe last time we changed the bylaws, we deliberately made it smaller, make it less cumbersome.
Yeah.
That's true.
Didn't it used to be one representative from each county?
We tried to do that. Well, I would, counties doesn't have a representative.
Well, there would be 6 counties that don't have a representative if you have a 9-person board.
True.
But it just depends on whether or not those members feel that they're getting the representation they want. Or so is it?
Yeah. Well, between Mark and Aaron, really. And if there's no one else representing Umatilla County, because Marcia's resigning, Aaron might be a good choice, but then there's nobody as far down there as, well, Buzzy's at Hood River, so there's really nobody in that region.
Buzzy's at a crook now.
Well,
I know,
Jeff,
that's what I'm saying.
Jeff is in
He's
that.
out of, he's away
Yeah,
from.
Away from, yeah.
He's away from.
Mhm.
But Jeff's on.
Yeah, Jeff would be that area. And if, depending on how the board feels about whoever replaces Marcia at the Special Library District, I mean, that is somebody that represents 12 libraries that are part of the consortium versus one particular library director. So it does, not knowing when that position is going to be filled would, and, depends on that person, whether they want to take on 2 new responsibilities, a new job,
Well, I would think
board
Aaron-
membership.
No, I think Aaron would be a good choice.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I would nominate Aaron to fill Marcia's seat.
Okay,
I'll second that.
great. Any other nominations?
For the rain.
Hearing done, I will call for a vote to approve Aaron, what's your last name?
Wells.
Aaron Wells from Milton Freewater to be an at-large member, taking Marcia Richmond's seat, bringing us back to 9 members, and that would be, again, myself, Perry Stokes, Kathy Street, Darlene Johnson, Aletha Bonebreak, Buzzy Nielsen, Mary Reeser, Aaron Wells, Vicki Bond, and Jeff Laberneck. Any objections?
Nice distribution.
Hearing none, that passes by acclamation. Okay, moving on to budget approval. The budget, question about the issue with the carryover our place money, found that was accurate, the figure that we have listed in there. So there's been no changes since we last reviewed it. We just need to have an approval of that draft budget for what we're already 5 months into 2017. And the salary.
I move we approve the budget as presented.
Second.
Great.
So I actually had a couple questions.
Yes.
So on the database document, is that part of this discussion?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't quite understand it completely, but on the first tab, which was the pricing per county is listed as having a cost for Library to Go, which we're not a part of.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that you're not factoring that into the calculation of Library to Go.
Right.
And then my other question was on the same document, the genealogy stuff, there's numbers listed for that. I thought that we weren't doing that anymore.
We are not.
Yeah, those are just the tiers that remain. I don't have any figures for that in the budget, actually. Just in case we were to resume it, those are still preserved, but it's not calculated in the budget.
And we've confirmed that we don't have the population numbers to be able to do that again. Is that correct?
Right. Not enough participation.
Still a drop down?
Right.
Okay.
And some libraries have purchased it independently, like Pendleton has their own genealogy that they subscribe to on separate from the consortium.
Right, and that's we may go that route as well. But. So that's it.
Fuzzy, looking at the billing, although that first worksheet has the price in there, that's just for informational purposes. The second tab has the billing, and I don't have a figure in there for Crook.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't somehow factoring into the
Yes, I appreciate that.
calculation to pay for Library to Go.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the budget? The salary sheet is listed on that second tab. Our place funds for Brian's work will extend through June, and then after that, his base salary is $975 through the rest of the year, and Yana's salary $325 per month is budgeted.
And right now, I would say that her salary has stayed at or below that amount every month.
Good. So it's been moved by Kathy and seconded by Aletha to approve the budget. If there's no other questions or discussion, does anybody object to that approving?
No. And who's going to let Erin know she's been elected to the board?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, budget.
I already told her we're texting each other.
Oh,
all right.
all right. Very good. Take it off the task list. Thank you.
She said she accepted.
Yay.
Yay.
She's at a meeting today.
Congratulations to her.
Wonderful.
Deal. Congratulations.
It's an
Great.
extreme honor. She should.
Well, we're honored too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Library to Go Advantage program. I did speak with Cheryl about the Harney's utilization of Advantage. She was under the impression that they've already designated their content to merge back into the general collection, but she was going to check in to verify that. we discussed the options of either having a general advantage pool account for Leo or have individual members with their own advantage programs. She feels like it's best to have each individual member have their advantage program because that gives them more control over purchasing and managing those accounts, whereas Leo would have to then become responsible, if it had a pool account, for making all those selections and managing the money, and that is
I think
something that
she's
we
right.
don't have the capacity for, and that makes a lot of sense.
As
Well,
long as it
and-
reverts, it meets my concerns.
Well, and Perry and I went to their workshop or discussion at OLA, and you can become an Advantage member for free.
Yes, there's
So
no cost to join.
You don't. It doesn't cost anything to become an Advantage member. Obviously, if you're purchasing stuff for your library through it, then yeah, that costs something. But to be an Advantage member doesn't cost anything.
But is it true that it automatically reverts after a year?
They said that there's a settings preference that needs to be checked to put the content into the consortium from Advantage. So the library needs to check it off that their content goes to the Leo Listens.
Wouldn't you think that would be a kind of a requirement to have a set time required if they're going to benefit from the discounts? I mean, you know, to maybe accept the Leo Advantage on that basis, but to have it a time limit where it would revert so everybody would benefit?
My understanding, I still need to find the technical details, but my understanding is that there's only one option, and it's a 1 year, and that's the minimum
And then it reverts.
by which it reverts.
Yeah.
The minimum.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to verify. But
What about a
that's-
maximum?
Minimum and maximum. I think it's just a
Just one.
12
In other
month
words,
period. And so then,
Those are the rules.
right, whatever your content is becomes public content after that
Well, does
time
it go
period.
into the consortium, into the Library to Go consortium for the state, or into our consortium?
I think it goes into our consortium.
The general, not just Leo,
Oh, okay.
everybody.
So then the upside is that if we have, you know, 15 counties that are participating,
You know, it's really okay because there's an incentive for people to do an advantage to benefit the churches, and it also, in the end, benefits everybody. So I don't have any
Well,
problem
I
with that
think
at all.
the one thing that I found fascinating from the conference is that there are libraries that are part of Library to Go on the western side of the state that charge their members to use it. It's collecting a fee for people who
Really?
use Library to Go, and I was like, what? So, you know,
Oh,
it,
I had no idea.
yeah. So
Those might be not actually taxable libraries.
could be. So I want to say
Right.
it was like Eugene or Salem
It would
Library,
Be, it would be Eugene.
because I was talking to somebody and they were like, I love using this. I pay, you know, $50 a year or whatever it was that they paid, and you know, get all the books that I want, and it's just great. And I was like, wow, you know, we're paying, you know.
Okay.
So,
There's a comment from Aaron that basically echoes what we're saying. Aaron, via Kathy, who's
Uh-huh.
I think
Mhm.
copying and pasting her texts, and Aaron has concerns about any limitation put on independent purchasing by libraries. So she would want individual members to have the advantage option,
okay.
which is basically what
right.
we're feeling as well,
As long as it reverts.
as long as it
Yeah.
reverts.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
do we want to make a formal motion and have that be a declaration? Libraries can participate in Advantage, provided that their content is set to revert after the minimum period of 1 year.
I think that would be a condition of belonging to the consortium because they're getting an advantage of the discount. So I don't know if you need a motion or just make a statement or say it's just been agreed or.
Okay.
But get it in the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
So the consensus is, as we just discussed, Advantage is allowable with the minimum period of items going back to the collection. Next, we have Warm Springs Tribe request to join Leo. Their population is about 4,500,
Oh,
so it wouldn't be a huge increase. They're interested in Library to Go and the EBSCO databases.
Oh.
We have contacted the Oregon Digital Library Consortium, and Overdrive, they forwarded our request. Overdrive has approved the idea of adding Warm Springs. The Digital Library Consortium is also fine with it, so they're going to provide a formal quote of that new fee for us if there is any change. I don't know that there would be because I don't think 4,500 would push us into a new tier of service.
okay.
So we're just waiting for that. from
Where are we
Digital
on
Library
that tier? Is the
Consortium.
100,000 under that? Under the 100,000? And how close is it bouncing against it?
I don't think we're very close at all. 20, well, unless it's 250,000. We're at 242,
Oh, okay, we've changed our tier.
from what I understand. So
Okay.
if it's 252,000, we would be closer to that, but not over it.
All right.
Unless there was a new calculation of the population figures and we could just be pushed
okay.
over.
All
We'll
right.
see.
Well, and will it change with Wallowa County or Wallowa's
Yeah, I guess
County
Wallowa is
Library?
going to drop down, but they're only
But Enterprise is still,
600.
is that Enterprise still a member? I mean,
Wallowa Public or Enterprise?
there's no, well,
Enterprise, yeah, they still are.
yeah, and Wallowa Public has a little library in Wallowa. But there's a Wallowa County Library, that's the one that's, and have they been a member?
Yes.
Mhm.
And their service population is only listed at 6.
Yeah, because, okay, I'm not gonna delve into it right now, we don't have
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. We're at Leo Membership Memorandum of Understanding. So this is something I've tried to find whether Leo has had one of these in the past, and all I could find was one that was initially set up when we started Library to Go. But we certainly haven't revised that ever or made it a practice of being signed for participation. Sage has one that I think we could use as a template. I think it would be beneficial to address some of these issues of responsiveness and expectation, explanation to city managers or other governing boards about what Leo provides and what member participation involves. So I hopefully will have a draft of such a document for the August meeting. Would anybody like to be on that committee with me?
I would, given I live here.
Yay.
I would.
Yay.
You have to call the meeting.
Yes. We
Because I
can work
won't
on the
remember.
bylaws also. We'll do that first.
All right.
Okay, we have Alita and Brian on the committee and myself. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to board member contribution. Once again, this is just to plea for people to send in a contribution of any amount, even if it's $5. This is like OPB fundraising drive time. Because as Brian has mentioned in previous meetings, some grant funders will not consider a requester eligible unless they have 100% contribution from its membership, its executive board directors, and that they don't get into how much they're contributing, just that they have contributed something in a cash amount.
Correct.
It can't be your in-kind
Okay,
labor.
so if you're going to do this, I don't know where it stands right now, whether anybody's really responded to this or not, but if we do it, is this going to be the time of year when we do it, and are we going to be reminded every year? So it's not just dribbles in, and then people say, oh, did I pay? And I mean, can we have a particular time
What's
to
the best
call for
time?
it?
Well, I think this is a good time of year because this is also the time that we're creating the invoices to send out for membership. Membership dues are due, the invoices go out at the end of May, and, we start seeing payments in June. So,
Well, why don't we say then that May would be the month when board members would make a contribution that meets their budget, and that they would be in by the 1st of June to Brian.
Okay.
it just goes to the little PO box and I pick it up. So,
Very good. I like it.
That way, every year we can remind people at this time of year, so we don't say, oh my God, Christmas, did I get the money or didn't I?
So, and there's two ways you can go about doing it. You can, mail a check to the PO box, or you could go to the donation page on the website and do it via PayPal if you want to use a credit card. It shows up in there. You can indicate what you want the money to go towards, and make a note of it, and then it sits in the PayPal account until we decide to transfer it. That account needs to be updated to our UMPO account because right now it's linked with our Bank of Eastern Oregon account.
So if a person did it right this afternoon, it would go into the Bank of Oregon and go nowhere.
It would just sit and be held in our
PayPal.
So we received a donation from Malheur County. One of the friends of the library there purchased or placed books, and so they made the contribution. And then we've received one other contribution there as well that was just a straight up donation to Leo.
Okay.
So, and that's a place that, where libraries can direct patrons to make donations to Leo if somebody wants to fund a program and they want it to be tax write-off for that person. They can put it there, and they can make a note that this is meant to pay for traveling lanterns in 2018 for the Echo Library.
Buzzy says he just made a contribution while we were talking. It was very easy.
Nice.
Who did?
Buzzy.
Oh, nice. Good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we have improving communication between members, executive director, and presenter. So this is a Brian item.
Yeah. So I guess, this will go along with what we create for the MOU. I mean, I want to be able to be effective for everybody, and at the same time, I only have so many hours per week to dedicate, and so if I'm chasing people around, then everybody sort of has their ability with me compromised when people, don't respond within a 48-hour period. I just, does everybody feel that 48 hours is a reasonable time frame to respond?
I feel like
No, I think 48 hours is too short.
There are some libraries that aren't open
That's true.
like
Well,
that.
so I think that based on the time that you have allotted for me, which is 9 hours a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays are the days that I should be available to you. Every other day of the week I shouldn't, mainly because I have other things that I do, and those are days that I think every library, or at least one of those days, libraries are. And it's not to say that if somebody sends me an email on a Friday, if it's a quick answer or something that I can, do and I see it, I respond to it. I mean, I respond generally 7 days a week to emails that I receive related to programming. Even during my face down time 2 weeks ago, I know I was responding to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily about, me responding to you guys, but what is a reasonable amount of time that I can expect to hear back from you, and especially if we're talking about programming on your behalf, like what are you capable of doing so that I don't, I mean, I'd prefer to lose all my hair so I don't have to shave it, but at the same time, honestly, it does stress me out if I can't handle something quickly on your behalf.
Whoever said too little time, what do you think?
Kathy.
What do you think, Kathy?
Sorry, it takes me a while to unmute. It's just sometimes on those 3 days, I'm driving around to all the library districts, and I'm trying my best not to check email when I'm driving. And then if I'm out a day, I miss the opportunity. You know what I mean? Maybe if it was just a little, I mean, I try really hard not to answer emails when I'm on vacation. The 48 hours would be too short for those situations.
Well, I don't know that we need to make a hard and fast rule. This is just a best practice guideline of
Okay.
not on vacation or doing other things. But
Okay.
Brian's example of responding quickly is really
Justification of his hours and the days he works is very reasonable.
Yeah, Brian's always responds really quickly, and that's been good motivator for me to try to improve my response rate time. So I think all we can do is try to keep that in mind, and instead of thinking you're going to get back to it after you do this other thing, try to get it done as soon as possible.
Or even say, I have to think about this when I'll get back to it.
Yeah.
If it's a heavy-duty question about timing or scheduling.
And I guess too, like I hate for any of us to lose time or ability to execute or schedule something. Not so much that, like, I don't want any of you to work more than me. I mean, that doesn't make sense either. That doesn't make us effective partners. But I'm just trying to figure out, if, let's say, and I also, I guess, if the board says like, oh, that's too, you're expecting too much of members to respond that way, then I would love a directive as to how you would like me to handle it when somebody doesn't respond in a timely fashion. Should I just move on and then just be like, well, I didn't hear back from them, give them, a set period of time. And I guess the reason that I have some frustration with it is that every so often someone will have been contacted about something and they don't respond to me, and then weeks later I'll get an email saying, I'm having problems getting this scheduled. Where are you and why haven't I heard? And so for me it's like, well, what was it, 3 weeks ago that I sent you an email and there was no response, and now that it's come time and this person is on tour, it's now an issue that needs to be dealt with. Like it, in some respects, like if 3 weeks have passed, I've moved on and I'm doing other things, and so I'm going backwards. And I just don't want to do that, like, because it is someone is taking advantage of the rest of your,
So I'm
time.
gonna
So,
Right.
I'm gonna suggest that I have Brian look at this military technique of using little lines in the subject header of action or sign or info or decision or request
okay.
to help get people's attention. An action is required.
Yeah.
I've started to do that with my emails, and it seems to be helping. So
Yeah.
I'll share this with Brian, and I encourage anybody to use this. It's a pretty good system, actually.
So, and I think that's great. I mean, little things, little tweaks like that to how I communicate with members is great. And I just, of course, want to reiterate, like, I'm never going to contact anybody unless it's related to a service that Leo wants to provide, or,
As you say, no
membership.
cats.
So Aaron had recommended that at one time that, unless the subject line says, like, read me immediately, sometimes people pass it over. And I just, part of me was like, if it's for me, like, it's only related to a service that Leo wants to provide to you in your library.
Yeah.
But I will, look at this and, put those sorts of things into my subject line.
Yeah.
So that we, so everybody knows. And then all of you have used the version of the Doodle calendar that I sent out as far as working to schedule Nancy and working to schedule Teresa. And so, some of you used it and some of you didn't. So I'm just wondering, did you like that? And do you want me to continue to do that?
Well, I think Doodle's a great tool. It should be used.
What
I haven't
about the
found a better
others?
one.
What are they saying?
Well, Kathy commented earlier. Fuzzy says Doodle's great. Darlene or Mary Reeser says Doodle is used all the time. Kathy earlier said she agrees that Brian responds very quickly, and she's going to try to respond in kind.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Kathy likes Doodle.
All right.
Good.
Perfect. Then I'll keep using that. I mean, to me, I think it worked relatively effectively, and then, it was helpful for Nancy to see. I think the only downside is that when I don't know what time of day you want to necessarily have certain programs, I just give it a giant time frame, and then the presenter and the library worked out which, 90 minutes they were working versus that entire time. But the way in which I sent it out for the Eclipse and was by region. So there might have been 5 counties that received one calendar. Another 4 or 5 counties received a different set of calendar dates, and then the last group received a third set of dates. And so that way I could keep them separate, and you're not seeing, in Umatilla County, you're not seeing what Baker County is picking. You're only seeing what other libraries within an hour's drive of you is seeing. So that worked well for me. So I'm glad it works for you guys.
Are you including a deadline or response deadline date on these?
I didn't on any of those, so I can add.
I would do that. We need response by this date, and then at the same time, if your email system has the capacity, create a reminder and schedule it for a week in advance of that deadline or whatever to send out, and say the deadline is now 7 days away if you haven't already responded, and then you don't have to worry about it again. At
7 days, that's too much time, Perry.
Okay.
All right, good.
Is that good on communication?
Nice tools.
Okay, and any suggestions from the board as to what, what you're doing within your areas that you'd like me to do or suggest I could do?
You talk about communication now?
Yes, still for communication.
I think what you've been talking about is pretty good.
Okay, moving on to other business, grant applications for 2018.
So, Perry and I were,
This is Kath.
oh yeah,
Erin had that one message about the art place that she really wanted to make sure she got in before we were done with the meeting. So I just wanted to, where is it?
Is there an additional 10,000? If there's an additional 10,000 remaining for our place grant money, that should be spent on programs for libraries that did not receive any programming. Suggestion would be to put on art classes for all of the Leo libraries in Umatilla and Oregon Trail, or purchase supplies for those libraries to host their own art classes. 10,000 would go a long way towards art supplies that could be used in multiple programs at those libraries.
okay. So there isn't $10,000, and I think we touched on it earlier before Erin came on the call. All of the money that we're spending from Art Place is being spent on either some of the smaller libraries or libraries that didn't receive any programming to begin with. So, you know, Teresa's drilling's going to only libraries that within Umatilla that didn't receive any other programs, and I think that at least 35 of the 50 libraries have had at least one program funded by Art Place stuff.
Great.
So,
Good.
yeah. I wish there was an additional 10,000.
Yeah.
So
So for next year, I guess you're looking for direction for 2018 because grant windows are happening now for next year.
They are. And honestly, I have not been as proactive looking at grants as I would have liked to have been, just based on what I've been doing to schedule Nancy and the Big Eclipse and schedule what we're doing with the final amount of the Art Place budget, plus having to go back and forth with Art Place about, you know, what and how they wanted to handle the remaining funds, which was just 13,000, and then my eyeball. So it, David, whose last name I'm blanking on, did the films from Wasco, Sherman, and Hood River County for the Harvesting Our Stories, approached Perry and I about doing the importance of libraries in rural Oregon, sort of like a StoryCorps type cataloging, documenting of how and why rural libraries are important. You know, I think being at OLA and, you know, briefly talking with people about the library that's in Douglas County that's closing, you know, how and why, you know, we need to have funding for our libraries. So the upside of what we've done with the Art Place funds is to really showcase like just how vital and vast and diverse the libraries are in Eastern Oregon, and the different types of programming that, you know, we were able to do with that. And so, you know, a grant like this could go towards, you know, helping to generate something that shows how and why not only we need state but federal funding for libraries. The partnership that we had with Art Place from doing the Voices of the Forest, some of the videos that were created for that have seen over 50,000 views. And so the Forest Service sees that as something that was only capable because they partnered with Leo to do that. So, you know, with that, you know, we now have a new ally, and when it comes to what we're doing and what we, you know, are capable of doing.
I'm going to pull up the StoryCorps page in case anyone's unfamiliar with that. It's a fantastic collection of little conversations and stories between two people. And there's an app that you can download for free that helps people interview each other and record such stories and then submit them to the StoryCorps archives. So I love the idea of
I do too.
doing that.
I'm looking to see if the
Library
LSTA
purposes.
grant application
It's passed according
Passed for
to
this
Perry.
year.
is
So
passed
that's
for this
something
year.
that, you know, would
Because
be a
that
grant
would,
to
the
look
state
at.
would really, really, really love this one.
I think that, you
And I
know,
did mention that to David, that
Sure,
LSTA,
right.
this is right up LSTA's
Yeah, it
alley.
really is. I mean, it's a winner. It's too bad.
We can do it for next May or March, whenever the deadline is.
Okay.
I mean, and so this is the sort of thing where, you know, if we were to, you know, tackle something like that I really need the capacity of the members to be able to help, you know, coordinate with us. You know, the being able to do it in a logical fashion may not always be the case based on, you know, different library schedule, director schedule, the people that we work with to make this happen. So in that respect, like, our budget needs to be relatively robust to say, you know, we want you to be able to help do this with us, but, you know, also be super flexible so that we can say, oh, you know, 3 weeks you won't be working, and then, you know, for a 3-day period you'll be working very intensely. So it's a matter of being able to, you know, really have the capacity to execute something like this if we receive the funding for it. You know, we did something like this with Oregon Poetic Voices, where, you know, they came out and, you know, recorded poets in each region that they went to, and it's, you know, part of the state archive now, but they're not going on tour anymore. And there were libraries that, you know, turned it down because they said, oh, you know, we don't have any poets in our community. We don't have anybody interested in that. And I think it was a real missed opportunity. So I don't want to force people to have programs that they don't want, but when it comes to things like this, if we were to do a what is the importance of the library in your community type project, like, it would be very important that every library take part. And if we only have one person show up in, say, Union or Elgin, but we have 30 people show up in Boardman, to me that would be a win. Like, I think that it's not necessarily realistic to want to have programs where we've got 200 people showing up. I mean, those are great, but you know, and I want to know, like, what the members really want. And, you know, because I'm asking 50 people, I'm going to get 50 different opinions. And so in some respects, it's like, oh, if there's something that would effectively benefit the majority, even though there are some people that won't utilize this or don't want to utilize it, then those, I think, are better grants for me to look at. So some of the big grants that Lynn got, maybe not necessarily what you guys...
They're pretty few and far between.
You know,
they're hard to get.
Right.
Those
and
big
so,
ones.
You know, it's like, sure, you know, for me financially, it would be great to get, you know, $200,000 grants every, you know, year.
They're not out
But
there.
at the same time, like, based on how we had problems executing Art Place, like, I also think it's not really a realistic thing for us to approach most of the time.
I really like the idea of having it more from the ground up and to really see what we can do for the libraries instead of having this really huge idea,
Okay.
and then digging down and see who wants it, take care of it. I mean, the StoryCorps thing, if it's handled right, I would think would be very appealing to any library that would want to enhance its role in its own community.
Sure.
Kathy mentions OMSI and says the board is always asking about that. And how popular. I want to know about that
Okay.
OMSI project in the works. Depends on whether OMSI gets funded from the National Science Foundation. I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I've noticed that everybody is doing, or everybody does, is summer reading. And so, like, are there grants that we as a consortium can get that would benefit all members in the summer reading program? Summer programs seem to be what are really a staple for every library.
Why don't you send out a quick survey and ask if they want to, if they could handle a program that's doing, so, because then you'd have some data to write a grant.
Mhm.
It's pretty late for this summer.
Right. Well, and
but
the summer programs that we're doing virtually for everybody is travel and lessons. They're like in the way in which they are going around, migrating a variety of regions.
Hold on a sec. We're getting some background noise from somebody's line. I don't think it's somebody connected by computer. Maybe it's somebody by phone. If you can mute your phone line, please do that if you're not speaking.
I don't know. I do not know. Okay. Okay, well, I want to come in. I'm going to go with so today, but I want to come in and pick up the rules. Okay.
I'm not sure who that is, but I don't think they're listening very well.
What did they say?
Well, another company.
Oh. Well, anyway, I think if you did kind of a survey and just got some feedback, it would make a strong grant application, and it would enhance.
So I guess the thing is summer reading something that people want me to find funding for, or is it something that's already in their budget, and so then that would be a worthwhile thing? If there's other youth programs.
That's what I mean about a survey.
Yeah, so like.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, sure.
Just ask them. Send an email with a quick answer.
Yeah.
They all have a program, and they all
Right.
have some basic funding for it from the state.
Right.
But other than that, they might need it to be enhanced in some way, and they would know.
Okay. The next thing is, does the Leo board have any expectations or new expectations of me that I don't already know of? Or
Expectations of you.
Nothing new. Just
okay.
Same, yes.
But I like the idea of looking for the smaller grant opportunities to reach people's needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you do have any grant ideas, should we have
Yeah, you
people
can email me.
send them to Brian, please.
If anybody could think of a particular continuing ed thing that they're desperate for, if we had a number for that, we could try to fund a gathering to cover that.
So our next meeting is actually scheduled for August 11th, which is 10 days before the eclipse. So I'm not sure if that's the best timing for everyone, because you may be involved with those issues preparing for that event. So we can either keep the meeting on the 11th if you'd like, or we can move it down to the 25th of August if that would be preferable. Does anybody have an opinion on those? Fuzzy says dealing with mental health issues would be a helpful continuing ed item.
Okay. I would think a grant to gather some people in a place for that with a decent presenter would be a really good idea, and it wouldn't be terribly expensive. Provide some transportation money and pay a speaker.
Okay.
And get a price for it and write a grant.
Darlene says I would agree to August 25th. Kathy asks staff or patrons on the mental health issues I expect. I think we're mostly looking at patrons' mental health, if I understand Fuzzy right,
but really, if we had a decent speaker,
well, I think that
could be included.
That was one of the things that so many of the libraries in the larger areas, and it could be an issue in some of the small areas, is that they've, like at the state library, they've closed part of it because the state was like, you're housing homeless people instead of providing library services, and so
that's right.
Homelessness generally is paired with mental health, so looking at something like that, I think.
I just think it'd be real popular.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And not too hard to fund.
Okay.
Unless it's a
Kathy says
pre-existing
either
condition.
day works for her.
Which?
The 25th?
So Kathy says either is fine.
I prefer the 25th.
Fuzzy says psychology may be needed to deal with staff mental health issues.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Alita prefers the 25th. Darlene prefers the 25th. I think it's just a safer bet.
Okay.
We don't know what kind of scrambling is going to be going on. Fuzzy says he can't do the 25th due to OLA board meeting.
Well then let's go back to, what's wrong with the 18th?
That's even
the
closer
film festival and
to the
so I
eclipse
would
date.
not be available.
Okay. Well, I could do the 11th.
Well, that's one board member that can't make the 25th.
But he's important.
He is very important.
He is important.
The most important board member in Crook County.
There you go.
Well,
so either one works for me.
I can make the 11th.
We're going to shoot for an in-person, and that's
okay.
my concern. If worst comes to worst, and we have to do it by GoToMeeting, we can always revert to that if we can't afford the travel time. So let's stick with the 11th.
And we'll be going to John Day.
John Day Outpost, or Outback, what's it called? Restaurant? You know the one.
Yeah, I know the one. I just don't know what it's called.
Okay. So August 11th, 10 a.m., John Day Outback Restaurant. And after that, October 13th.
I can't do the October
You
one.
can't do October.
No. Well, I'm not as important as Buzz.
We can talk about that, moving that at the next meeting. All right, if there are no other issues to discuss, I think we're done.
Shoot, I was just going to comment about that. Oh, I just wanted to make a comment that at this time of year, like always, I'm starting to become knee-deep in bike race and film festival planning. So I will do my best to always respond in a timely fashion. But
you only have 48 hours.
Yeah, I do. The week of June 19th through the 26th, I will only be responding by email, not phone calls, unless you're really special. And then in August, the 17th through the 20th is when the film festival happens. So again, you might get an email back from me, but I don't expect any of you to respond on weekends. And I'll do my best not to respond on weekends either.
I skipped over the question about posting of videos. So, Leo is not a public agency like a government agency.
Right.
We're a nonprofit, so we're not required to make these meetings as public as we are with our own organizations.
All of our membership should be able to.
I think all our membership should be able to see.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to get to a spot where I can look at the settings, but basically we can either make the video that we post of this meeting, the audio, open to all the public and make it searchable, or we can just have it be restricted to only those with the link, which we could post on the Leo website and have just direct our Leo members there. I don't think there'd be a lot of crawlers otherwise, but is there any reason why we shouldn't make it just public?
No.
I think we're all on pretty good behavior when we're in these meetings and being recorded knowingly.
Just see if anybody objects.
No comments. Okay. Well, I'm going to set them to be public and searchable, and we'll also post those links on the Leo site. But if anybody has an issue with that, please let me know and we can discuss that at a future meeting.
And there have been some minor changes to the website, so the updated Leo logo is on there, so it's a little different than it was at our last meeting, and the Voices of the Forest videos have been added to the Art Place section. And this is what it looks like when a board member contributes. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's
good. Okay.
Thanks, Buzzy.
Okay. Now I think we're really done.
Yeah.
The meeting is adjourned at 11:47. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
So who wants the task list?
I've got one.
I've got one.
So let's go over it real quick and see if we have the same tasks.
All right.
So starting at the top, Harry needs to create a pitch for Library to Go.
Yep. Policy paper for Advantage.
Everybody needs to send Marcia a thank you letter.